Hello and welcome to Radio Free Nintendo. It is July 10th, 2025. I am James Jones. I am joined today by John Lindeman.
It's great to be here, James.
Greg Leahy.
Ahoy, ahoy, everyone.
Guillaume Vayette.
Hello.
And you listeners at home. This is episode 933.
I believe that's correct.
933. There we go. Got it. Yeah.
Yep.
I wasn't stalling to look it up or anything. I was just feeling my soul-crushed robot self. John, I got a question for you. I'm already off the rails, by the way. These guys don't know what's coming. Just giving you all the heads up on that.
Hit me.
Last week, I bought an Arcade Archive game.
Okay.
And I was severely disappointed with the outcome, as y'all can probably have
That is not surprising in the slightest.
John acting like he literally wasn't there for the conversation. But yes. I mean,
I'm just
physically,
saying, in general,
he was present.
In general.
Yes. But, and I kind of said, like, all right, I'm not going to buy any more Arcade Archive shooters. I can't fucking do this. This is stupid and bad. John, Arcade Archive Super Dimensional Fortress Macross 2 just came out.
Mm-hmm. That's probably not good. As much as I want that to be good, I mean,
it's Macross 2, so that's already a red flag.
Yeah, definitely.
But I'm looking at a screenshot, and I'm going to put it in the chat. Because this is a visual medium. I want you to describe it, and not describe the promotional cover of Chess the Musical's LP for cast members only. Which is also in the chat for those of you at home who can't see the chat. John, I want you to describe what is happening in that screenshot.
Okay, so it looks like a bunch of what appear to be Zentradi warships are in the background. And there are... Zentradi are the alien race.
One of them, yes.
Yeah. So... Kind of though, but they don't really look they don't look like the ones in the show. But however,
so this would be Macross 2.
So are those actually Zentradi?
So this is like 200 years later. So probably.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. But there are many anime girls with pixie haircuts in in boots.
Those are elf boots.
Okay, yeah, kind of like elf boots and mini skirts and tube tops, and they are flying through space with explosions around them.
While battle is happening, yes.
Yes.
They're singing, I assume.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. The power of song is fucking shit up.
It is.
This is so goddamn Macross as shit. I kind of don't think I can help myself.
I've never seen Macross 2. I've never seen it. I don't even know if it's...
I have...
Yeah.
No.
Is it widely available?
It's on Disney Plus, at least in Canada.
Yeah,
Okay.
it recently became a little bit more available. Well, so the thing is, I want to say there's Macross 2 is called... I think that's the one that's Lovers Again.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's kind of not canon because the original creator wasn't involved or something like that.
So I actually watched that recently because I keep hearing about Macross. I've never watched Macross. I saw that it was on Disney Plus. I had the free subscription that since lapsed, so I can't go back but like one of the things that was on there, they didn't have the first series.
Right.
But they had the video clip show of the first series. So they had the movie that's basically a long kind of video clip that's just scenes from the first first series. And so like I was watching that and like I didn't have the context of what this movie quote unquote was, and I was like, well, when are they going to start talking and like have a story? And then I realized, like, okay, no, I'm just seeing, like, the quote-unquote best bits of the first show. So that's all I have to go on for the first series. And then, like, yeah, Lovers Again, that's one that I watched. And I honestly, I wasn't super impressed. It didn't rock my world. Like, I think... Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what to say about it. Like, it was very kind of stupid.
Kawamori, who created the series, doesn't like Macross 2.
Okay.
He retconned it into being a parallel universe. That's the degree to which he does not like it. And then went and made Macross Plus, which is also a sequel to... This is a Bravely Second / Bravely Default 2 situation. Where he just decided, no, Macross Plus is the sequel now. I like Macross Plus a lot, actually. So if you were going to watch something, John, I would say aim for Plus. That actually got a theatrical run a few years ago.
There's actually a bunch of Macross stuff on Disney Plus here. There's Macross Plus, Macross Zero, Macross Delta, Macross Plus the movie edition.
Oh, God, Macross Delta, Jesus Christ.
Macross 7. Is there actually...
Yeah.
Do they actually have Super Dimensional? Because I've only seen the Robotech version of Super Dimensional Fortress Macross, which is, of course, just completely gutted. So...
Yeah, essentially. I have seen the original Macross in subtitled form. I have seen Macross 2. I saw that on a VHS with a dub in Blockbuster in, 1998. Mm-hmm. It was bad. Then I actually finally got to see Macross Plus when it did its theatrical run. It was kind of amazing. I'm not going to say it's great, but in a theatrical setting, it was actually really good. That was a weird one where it was an OVA that they then had 4 or 5 episodes that they then cut into a feature film and released for Golden Week. Mm-hmm. Macross 7, which is not the 7th series, but who the fuck knows what's going on with that. That takes place super duper in the future. Macross Zero comes after that. That's I want to say that's early 2000s. I think the next one is late 2000s. That might be Frontier. And then Delta. Oh boy. Delta is late 2010s, and it's this is a series about the power of singing and hot girls making enemy armies fall to pieces. We're not dealing with the most serious bullshit ever.
No.
No. But at this point, it's there are pop idol groups who compete to be the best pop idol group so that they can power the war machine with the power of pop idol. It's
wow.
Saccharine and ridiculous and nonsense. It looks awful. I have only watched a little bit of it and was just reviled it, but almost to the point where I could have hate watched it and been good. Now that I know it's on Disney Plus, we might be looking at my next hate watch. I haven't had a good anime hate watch in a long time.
Yeah.
That's the Cowboy Bebop creator's most recent show I kind of hate watched. It was pretty terrible, Lazarus, but that was pretty quick. Yeah, I didn't know I was hate watching that until I was 5 episodes in, and then I'm I fucking hate this. Holy shit, this is terrible. Is this ever going to explain anything? No? Okay, fuck it. This motherfucker nailed it, got 2 good shows, and has released 8 of them, and we have to pretend the other 6 aren't garbage. God damn it. In case you're curious, the other one is Space Dandy. That's the other good show he made. All the rest, just avoid. Just avoid. I kind of want to play this game. I know it's bad. It's a Bam Presto published game. There's no way it's anything that's even remotely good. It's a time attack shoot 'em up for $14.99. There's no way this is a smart decision. I will never ever get back my happiness for price.
I think you should get it.
And yet, I'm sitting here with my finger hovering over the direct download, but it's not even Arcade Archives 2! It's regular Arcade Archives, so they can't charge me the extra $2 for no features. Hamster, you sadistic fucks. Why are you like this? But at the same time, our friends over at Egg Console accidentally released a game you can play without knowing Japanese, so... Truly, we've hit a new peak for all these collection games. I do feel like Egg Console is deliberately picking games that are just completely impenetrable. We got them now. The other one I wanted to ask John about, this is my original thing I was going to ask John about, so I went here to look this back up, and then saw that fucking Macross 2 came out. John, have you been following Missile Command Delta?
Not in particular, but... I think this is in the same collection or the same sort of release area as Breakout Beyond, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, because I've heard good things about Breakout Beyond. Missile Command Delta I have heard of, but I haven't read about it.
It's a tactical turn-based game where you have to manage the pool of defenses against incoming missiles. It's weird as shit.
That sounds like it could actually be interesting.
It's like you're in a command room moving around places and interacting with stuff. It's so weird.
Yeah.
Like, again, part of me is going like, I should buy this. This looks weird as fuck. But it's like, does it look good? No. Does it look weird? Yes.
Well, I'm worried. I mean, like, it's a good developer. It might be good. Isn't it what's their name? 13
a.m. games. Yeah, 13 a.m.
Runbow.
Yeah, but I'm just speaking on what I'm seeing in front of me. Like, they have not put together a compelling series of images to sell this game.
Mm-hmm.
And that is on them. That is a decision that Nintendo does not pick your screenshots. It's just a bunch of pictures of a room with no real explanation as to what's happening. This could be like one of those fucking Nori games from this image, but it's not. So, I don't know. I'm about to make some bad decisions, I suspect. Not that that's new, but different bad decisions the week of Donkey Kong release. I have kept an eye on situations. We have not had Donkey Kong projectile vomiting, blood popping out at Universal Studios, Orlando, Hollywood, or Osaka. Really missing marketing opportunities from last week's episode. I would assume they would have heard it by now. So maybe the Skip Demons got that part of the audio for them. Apologies for those of you listening last week. Hopefully you're not hearing any this week. But if you are, guess who's spending a bunch of money on new hardware? It's this guy. But we'll figure that out. Hey, anyway, emails. So, new business is a little bit light this week because we're all sort of waiting for the Kong, waiting for the big ape, as it were. It's like waiting for Godot, but furrier. And so we're going to do some email. Where do you send emails? Well, if you've got a question, comment, thoughts, concerns, reflection on the current state of affairs of some industry topic that is tangentially related to our current space, commentary on Nintendo's latest financial numbers or games. I always like to say games at the end because I can be dramatic about it. You can send them to rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. That is rfn @nintendoworldreport.com. rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. The robot voice was back. I've realized, like, listening to this show, like, I'll be in the middle of, like, a 15-mile bike ride and I'll hear myself do something like that and I'm like, am I okay? Am I giving myself a stroke through time? So, future me, haha. Anyway, we're going to read some emails. I have the first email. And probably the most important email. Bikonite writes, my 5-year-old son asked me if there's such a thing as an exercise game. While I struggled to remember Ring Fit Adventure, he threw out the title Xenoblade Chronicles X-ercise. So this is a challenge to you all to pitch that game. I hope you all found this as funny as me. So we may have actually done this in the past. There was a series of games that Nintendo put out on the DS called Personal Trainer Walking.
Well, yeah, it was like Personal Trainer blank, right? It was like there was a lot of like Personal Trainer theme, and one of them was about walks. Yeah, I seem to recall. Yeah.
But the step smoking one was by Ubisoft. It was not part of it. Let's get that out of the way.
Oh, they were always trying to get in on it. Well, pets instead of Nintendogs.
No, hold on. Can we appreciate that the French publisher's like, we've really got to stop smoking? Jesus Christ. Let's just make a game about stopping smoking.
The Japanese developers are like, why? Why would we stop?
Hey, it's harder to smoke in public in Japan now than it used to be, where it was mandatory. They got to the bottom of it right in time to clean up their act for the 2020 Tokyo Olympics for all the guests that showed up. Ugh. Well, their heart was in the right place. So I'm pretty sure we made a joke about like Xenoblade Chronicles X Trainer Walking at some point, where it was just a pedometer and you would just be walking around Mira and your character might be killed off screen. Kind of like a an AR game, but as opposed to like finding Porygons sitting around in front of the 7-Eleven where people buy alcohol and just smash bottles on the ground after they drink it in the parking lot, you're finding a Gonzalez. I think is what the name of the big gorillas are. And he's just absolutely removed your trachea from its body because that's what he does with his giant hands. But there's definitely like Ring Fit Adventure had its own little meta narrative with like the workout demon or whatever that thing was called. There's no reason they couldn't have themed it as like Mario or some shit. I mean, we got Mario DDR at some point. Like they don't care. There's no rules. You could put the Mario theming on anything.
I feel like the GameCube era was like the peak for like just get him everywhere. You know what I mean? Like there were times have changed a little bit. Like, isn't there that story about Splatoon? You know, could have been maybe something that had established characters, but they decided to have new characters, and you know, I think that was for the best, wasn't it? You know, but if you feel like if the same thing had been happening in the GameCube era, it probably would have been a Mario thing, because it was just like, we had like all the different sports games, all the different spin-offs, and then like, let's, you know, they can be in SSX, they can be in NBA Street or whatever. I mean, it was just like, that was their response to the woes of the GameCube era. You know, it's just get
please put your game on our system. Here is Mario. Get
our biggest, most marketable character in as many places as possible on that console.
I wonder if some of that was partially a response to how like Soul Calibur 2 did with Link in it, where inexplicably the GameCube version of that game is the top selling version.
Yeah, that is pretty bonkers when you consider that the GameCube only sold about as well as the original Xbox, which is to say, you know, in fact, it might have been, I mean, it was definitely behind it in America, but I mean, worldwide, it was roughly about the same. But obviously, the PS2 was just so far out in front that, proportionately, would have had to sell vastly more, as an attach rate, with the GameCube user base than it did on PS2 for that to be true.
Yeah. But that's the power of putting Link on it. I wonder if that fed into the, we just got to put our characters on third parties going, I mean, we'll make a Nintendo version, but you got to give us Mario.
Yeah, maybe they started initiating that side of the conversation all of a sudden, if you're based on that experience. It's conceivable.
I want to see Mario dunk. See, when would that have been? That'd have been like 2004, 2005. I want to see Mario dunk on recent Syracuse draftee Carmelo Anthony. Just right now. It's what I need. And if I'm Nintendo, I'm like, I want that too. That's pre-Malice in the Palace, right, John?
Yeah, I think so. Have been. I think so.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I think the Malice was like 20 years ago this year, so I think that was like 2006. So yeah, it's probably pre-Malice. It's close. It's very close. Very close to us having Mario face up Meta World Peace. So close. God. That'd have been amazing. But Mario at Malice in the Palace in the career mode. There, I did it. We did it. We're there. All right. So Xenoblade workout game. Well, the problem
that was 2004, James. Malice at the Palace.
Oh, we might be right on target.
That was November 19th, 2004.
When was NBA Street? We might be on target here.
That's 2001.
NBA Street?
But the version that was on the GameCube was later, for sure. I don't know exactly when it was, but it was after that.
Well, let's find out.
We might be on target. If you don't know what the Malice in the Palace is, because, I mean, that was like 22 years ago, it's entirely plausible that you weren't even alive then.
Yeah, that is also extremely America-centric as well. US-centric.
Yeah, it's NBA. NBA's got... But it wasn't as international then, so that's fair.
Yeah,
and it's not like the NBA goes around talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. It was a brawl that spilled into the stands between the Indiana Pacers and the Detroit Pistons, and it basically actually led to the Indiana Pacers probably not winning the NBA championship that year.
Oh, definitely did.
Because they were the best. They were pretty much the best team in the league, and they lost like a ton of their players, like some of their best players for the whole season. Because
the league was like, okay, we can't have players going in the stands attacking fans.
Which is just delicious because I'm a Pistons fan and I'm like, fuck the Pacers. Fuck that team.
I felt bad because like they fucking threw, like they were literally throwing shit at players. Like to a certain degree, it's like, yeah, fuck that guy. But he hit the wrong guy too. So it's shit.
Yeah.
It's like if he had hit the right guy, I'd be like, no, don't suspend him.
Yeah.
Don't. That guy deserved it. Also throwing a full beer at a fucking
that's a dumb
NBA
move.
Game.
That's a dumb move. Throwing a beer at an NBA player is not, and it's not like any NBA player either. Like you're not.
No, you picked Maximum Crazy.
Yeah, like you're throwing it at Ron Artest, a guy who would slap you in the face without you throwing a beer at him.
A known loose cannon.
Yeah.
So there is a game where you can play Ron Artest versus Mario. I'm just saying it's out there for you to play. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about making you fit in the world of Xenoblade. Making not fit in as in like feel like you belong in, because nobody belongs in the world of Xenoblade. It's a goddamn nightmare. I mean making you fit, in the world of Xenoblade. Period. Like that's a subordinate clause. And the thing we did in the past with like personal trainer walking Mira edition, like yeah, fine, whatever. Fuck
that could be one component of it, right? It's like okay, you could have if we've got like a poke walker type thing, we've got a footstep tracker. It's like you could be like you set a journey in place, right? So it's like okay, we're setting out from New LA in this direction. And then it tracks how many footsteps you make, translates that into the Mira geography, and then it's like, okay, well, you reached this other this other part of the environment, and you activated one of those nodes, on the map, the probes on the map, because of that, stuff like that. That's one part of it. But yeah, presumably you got to have more than that for it to be kind of a satisfactory alternative to a Ring Fit Adventure scenario.
What if, what would be a good example of like stuff you could do? Like if it was more like a phone app where you had to interact with it. So like, what's a really famous, AR game that Nintendo has Pikmin Bloom. If it was more like Pikmin Bloom, not that Niantic is in any place to be creating new games right now because they are in not a great situation. Let's say like you walk around your phone or maybe a wearable, because it is 2025. Like we don't need to have a individual pedometer. You could just have it on your watch, on your Xenoblade. I don't know how to I couldn't figure out how to make that work. What was the name of Nintendo's Alarmo? What if they just made like, what's the watch version of Alarmo?
Armo?
Genius. Fucking genius. Armo, now
it was right
now
there.
For your arm. You're right, it was, and it's my fucking fault for not seeing it.
Yeah, I guess you could call it Al Armo.
Al. Now it just sounds like it's somebody's name. Al Armo just sounds like it's someone's name.
Yeah, that's true. It sounds like a trainer of some sort. Like, here's trainer Al Armo coming out to check to see if he's injured.
No, specifically, it's a worked WCW trainer's name who works the power plant. Yes.
Al Armo. Yeah.
Al Armo's here with this newest project, Kwee-Wee. Yeah, no, we're not doing that. Armo was good. Armo was so fucking good. Jesus Christ. And you can just look at your watch and you can see, oh shit, that's a Gonzalez. And like, you can like maybe press a quick button on there to try to not get murdered. And then they just gives you like a countdown. It's like, you need to run X number of meters before it catches you or you'll die and you lose all your progress for the day. Like, imagine how fit you'll get if you're just, if we do it at the cadence of you being attacked by tyrants on Mira. So, like, as you level up, because there is level progression, certain tyrants will no longer be a threat. Because whatever, I can beat that guy. I can beat, trying to think of some tyrant names. I don't need to worry about him anymore. He's not a problem. But like you get on, you come around and you think you're good, and then all of a sudden you just run into something you're just not ready for. Something that's about to just level you into the ground. You run into
it's integrated with your earphones, so that the music kicks in, and you shit out.
Yeah, Sacrum the Noctilicent shows up. And it's just like, oh no, I'm doomed. Ruth the Shunner of Light. There we go. That's the Xenoblade X names for the tyrants are so fucking good. They're so good. Like they're all absolute bullshit. CL the Vaucus. That's it. That's the one you want. That's only level 19 Oxerve though. Whatever. That's easy to deal with. Like, you've leveled up. You've been doing this thing for like 4 or 5 weeks. You put CL in the ground. You feel pretty good about yourself. And as you run away from another tyrant, and this will happen specifically in Noctilim in particular, where you're like running away from like a level 48 tyrant, or Oblivia, and then you run into Wetzel the Inebriated, a Slat who's level 70, and just absolutely eat your face. I like the idea of like you get how many levels it is how fast you need to run to get away from it. Or how far you need to run to get away from it. So you just get like a countdown. And it's like in 5, 4, 3, 2. And you could just see it like scrolling through on your watch. 1, 0. And then you need to clear a distance before the next countdown hits 0. Maybe you get 30 seconds. Maybe you get 2 minutes. Depends on how far you need to go. And if you get away, you get experience. And you level up. If you don't, you lose all your progress for the day. You only get to bank your progress when you sleep at night. And how long you sleep, because remember, it's a wearable. How long you sleep determines what the multiplier is for the experience that you've collected over the course of the day. So if you want to level up good, you better get 8 hours of sleep. If you're like some fuckwit who gets 4.5 hours to 5.5 hours of sleep and's got 2 thumbs that are pointed directly at my face right now, you're only getting like a 60% modifier, 60% of the experience you earned. Yeah, they're going to incentivize sleep so they can incentivize recovery so that you can level up. Like this, we're going to make this. I mean, the other issue is we're going to kill you a lot because it's Xenoblade Chronicles X. You're just going to die. You're just going to die. That's just an inevitability. And then when you clear it at the end of the game, like you get to whatever level it is that we consider it to be cleared, some things happen. And then there's no ending for 7 years. And then the watch wakes up again and you get an unexpected ending. Which Greg and I still need to talk about extensively. I don't know. Who wants to train with Xenoblade?
Well, I think
you don't have to use X. You can use whatever Xenoblade you want.
Well, I think for Xenoblade X, I think what you would have to do is you would at least have to, drop somebody on top of one of the really, really, really high plateaus up there, and have them run from a tyrant and then jump off. So
make them climb down.
Make them fall and make them actually like flap their hands to try to fly. That's what I think. There's something to do there.
After 600 hours of walking,
yeah,
you will finally get better walking.
That is true, right? You have to walk so far to get up to those things, and then
you get better walking.
Yeah,
and then eventually you get cool walking, but you have to earn cool walking.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no way to give you. I guess the way they give you a scale is you just get a cool icon on your watch while you're running.
Yeah.
So look at that fucking. Maybe when you run from a tyrant, you don't have to go as many meters because you're jetting, but it's got limited fuel because they do. So like you have to save your scale uses for the day.
Yeah, or you would have to do some kind of rigorous physical activity to refuel your scale.
Or sleep. It can also be based on how many hours you get.
Yeah.
So like, you didn't get enough sleep. Well, your scale doesn't have any fuel, idiot.
Yeah.
Look, Zaire the Cerulean Walker just showed up next to you. Aren't you fucked? Should have slept better, moron. Yeah, see, there's an opportunity here to just be absolutely fucking mean to the player, which I feel like Xenoblade needs in order to really force you to be fit, to be your best you. There is an irony in me picking Xenoblade X for this that I won't get into, but if you have played Xenoblade X, you understand that irony. I just like the idea of, like, you could used to be sitting somewhere, not even walking. You could be like at the office. Like some fitness trackers would be like, hey, you haven't moved in a while. It's time to get up. Go for a little walk. This one goes, hey, Ithilios the Enlightened has just shown up in your area. Fucking run! And that's it. That's you're in the middle of a meeting, and the high output pugilist just showed up, and well, you better make tracks because Dadan, the strongest prone, is in town, and he's gonna wreck your fucking skull.
Yeah,
that's. There's something that exists already like that, right? Like some sort of like zombie run app where the whole idea is that like, yo, you're being chased by zombies. Okay, accelerate the pace or whatever. Like I've never tried them, but I'm
not surprised. No.
Yeah, I don't know. Some people seem to be into them, but just having it described to me, I'm like, I don't think I need this. I'm good. Thanks.
I like the idea that your fitness tracker's job isn't to track your fitness. It's to make you mortally afraid.
Sure.
And so the idea that it could just delete your character that you spent time, like just go full, Steel Battalion. Like if you don't get away, it just deletes your character. You got to restart. For those of you who are unaware, again, because it's like 20-something years old, Steel Battalion was this Capcom published Xbox game that came with the giant fucking controller that was all the buttons for a mech. And one of them was an eject button that you had to press, or it deleted your save file when you died. It's just so fucked up. Like, it's so fucking ballsy. I want games to be ballsy like that. I want your Xenoblade X save to get deleted if you don't escape.
Okay, well, I might have an idea like that.
Okay,
so
hit me.
I think that one of the things, so the whole kind of like, oh, you're being chased by, such and such monster, it's been done, like, as I just said. Something that's unique to Nintendo was the Labo kits. And so because you're in a scale, because you like all that stuff, I think that this fitness game would be paired with the Nintendo robot kit, basically. So you build it, you wear it, you try to exercise with it, you break the shit out of it because it's fucking cardboard, and so you basically have to I don't know, build it again or buy another kit, I guess. But it essentially self-destructs as you try to exercise with it because it's a really dumb idea. But it reproduces the feeling of being in a skull, so there you go.
Yeah,
can you buy cardboard Labo insurance?
Yes, we have to be able to do that.
That is a great idea. Just pulls you even further into the universe of the game.
Yeah,
and it's a great revenue stream for Nintendo.
I want someone to actually
the
show up
new
to your
tier
house.
of Switch Online, isn't it? We got Switch Online, we got expansion pack, we got Labo insurance tier for the real sickos.
I would legitimately, if it was less than $5, I would buy Labo insurance despite not having Labo, just to get the stupid icon that says I have Labo insurance, because that is really approaching ambassador certificate territory.
Only if they brought back Street Pass and you could have that as your favourite game, like the ambassador certificate.
True. I did like when you ran into somebody who had that, because we were all just in on the dumbass joke. I may have had that for a while. There's limited fun you can have with Street Pass in terms of making your character completely useless and terrible. I think there is, but I think to your point, there's a lot of opportunity to Xenoblade up some various Nintendo like.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like
properties.
we've talked about. Or I've talked about an idea of using these games or the Breath of the Wild universe and just setting, if you can't create a new Pilot Wings, Just reuse those worlds. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Just give us a new Pilot Wings.
You're getting closer with the definitive edition. The new type of scale is much more like a jet plane now.
Yeah, you could basically just fly it.
Right, and Tears of the Kingdom also kind of gave me part of that, what I wanted. Like, okay,
but you don't have a rocket belt.
Well, I need
to put Link in a rocket belt.
You kind of can put him, on something with the rocket belt.
In Tears of the Kingdom just launches into space.
He gets fired out of a cannon in Wind Waker. We need to reconcile all these things.
Mm-hmm. But I feel like you could very easily also use, those worlds and just, use those worlds as the setting for a new Ring Fit adventure. That would be definitely the laziest way to do this.
You mean a new Pilot Wings?
No, I mean, we've talked about Pilot Wings, but the same idea, the same principle would apply. Okay, just keep Hyrule, or just keep, the world of Xenoblade.
Basically, anything that's been used for Woohoo Island in the past, like Wii Sports Resort, Pilot Wings Resort, now it's Mira, which is quite possibly the least thing like a resort.
You've already got the tennis courts and basketball courts.
But that's true. That you do have that stuff in New LA. And you've got a whole, Mordor place rather than just a single volcano. So, I mean, imagine the fun you could have.
And I was, so I said back when we were talking about Xenoblade X, before it came out in Definitive Edition, I said, there's an entire fucking pool that nobody uses. I think that might have been my exact words. I was wrong. There is a heart-to-heart where Murderous has a pool party. Which, again, is the most Xenoblade X fucking phrase I can possibly say. There is a heart-to-heart where Murderous has a pool party. That's it though. That's the only time anybody's at that pool. I think at some point there's some women who don't seem to have jobs in this survival of the fittest scenario who are just lounging by the pool and talk about how nice it is. Which really makes me question a lot of decisions made on the New LA Project Exodus. But, that one in particular is like, well, why do they have a pool? But they have the pool so they can have Woohoo Island there. I was actually thinking that there are other Nintendo casual brands that aren't tied to a franchise that could be brought in. So if you go back to the DS era, we talked about personal trainer walking. There was fucking face trainer. That's not really going to do us anything with Xenoblade. But the big one.
Don't forget eyesight training. Eyesight training.
That's true. You could probably do something with eyesight training in Xenoblade. But the thing that's not been done in a long time now is Nintendogs. So what if we had Nintendogs plus Nopon? So you can have a dog, sure, but it's a robot dog because this is Mira. You can have a cat. Again, it's not a real cat. It's a cat to make people that will never need to be fed, to make people who are taking care of it feel like they still have pets. It's a therapy cat. Or you could adopt a Nopon and take care of that, but it talks because it's a Nopon. Just going to make the game instantly more annoying, but in the perfect way.
It does. You don't just feed it and stuff. You have to indulge its get rich quick schemes.
Yeah, and it's questionable behaviors, and you have to try to disperse it of its attempts at romance, which will almost certainly go poorly. Tatsu is probably the least offensive Nopon in that respect, because Ricky's a deadbeat dad. I guess the 1s and 3 aren't terrible. He's trying. He's just really bad. And also, why Lynn? Why fucking Lynn? Lynn fucking hates you, bro. Come on. Get it together. But you can have them, just like Nintendogs, you can have them compete in various contests. You can have them, run races. Are you telling me you don't want to see Nopon try to run a race? I want to see Nopon run around. I want to see them fall on their fat little faces with their little wing arms as they're trying to run distances and then not be able to get up because they don't have actual proper hands. This is an A+ idea. And if you don't want to deal with the Xenobladeness of it all, sure, you can have a dog or a cat, whatever. You can be boring. But think of all the fun animals that run around on Mira. What if you could just adopt them? And it may not go well. it may go real poorly real fast, but you don't know until you try. Like, there are creatures out there just waiting for you to love them, or to eat you, or both. I'm trying to think are there other Nintendo franchises like that were like part of the touch generation games that could be mirrorized? That's a verb. I guess I'll make it a verb. I
don't know whether this was in Touch Generations or not, because Rhythm Heaven was for some reason. But
right.
You know what? Owendan needs to come back, and why not have it be that you're encouraging the citizens of New LA to get on with what is a utterly miserable, bleak-looking tasks, you know, in the face of likely extermination and the already, you know, certain destruction of the planet and pretty much everyone on it. If they need encouragement, is what I'm saying. So, you know, if you're the inspiration, or let's fire them up. Let's get it going.
Oh, God. So I'm visualizing that exact same screenshot I put in the chat earlier from Macross 2, except it's the cheerleaders from Owendan, and as opposed to being Zentradi warships, it's the white whale trying to escape.
Well, Greg, I'm looking at the list of Touch Generations titles, and they have one here called Active Health with Carol Vorderman.
That would be a UK only thing.
Yeah, it's a fitness game endorsed by British media personality Carol Vorderman. So, developed by Fuse Games.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like the Touch Generations was a very curious.
Fuse Games of Mario Pinball Land.
Yeah, well, they were British
Metroid
too,
Prime
right? They were British developers, so that's what kind of makes sense about that. But I don't want to say that it isn't still very odd.
Mm-hmm.
No, it is. It's extreme, but it's Touch Generations was like the one place that Nintendo of Europe was allowed to just go do weird shit on their own. And then everywhere else, it's like, no, you're going to use a literal translation of the Japanese title, but sure, you can hire some British celebrity to make a game. Fuck it, we don't care. It's like, it feels like the attention should have been paid elsewhere to other activities, not what they want to name their game, so they have to name it a little bit of brain training. Or whatever the fuck
I don't disagree with you, but equally, you know, we wouldn't be having this conversation if Nintendo of Europe hadn't actually tried to take a shot on Xenoblade. So you take the rough with the smooth.
True. You know, like Wii Sports was retroactively Touch Generationed. So, which is dumb that there are Touch Generation games on Wii, but that as
Hotel Dusk 215 was Room 215.
Yeah. Endless Ocean was though, but that was the one I was leaning towards. Because like, imagine we don't really ever get to go under the water on Mira. There is no way the subsurface aquatic life on Mira is anything but fucked up. I mean, look at what's on the surface.
Yeah.
Now imagine what's under the water. Because like, imagine look at what's underwater on Earth, like down in like trenches and shit. Translate that to Mira's completely insane ecology. And let me just swim through that with, what was the name of the guy in Endless Ocean 2 with the flame suit? It's like CJ or something. I need that. I need a really annoying, colleague in flame-colored swim clothes to go deep-sea diving with me on Mira. GG, that's it. Gary Gray. There's opportunity here. Like, you could make an entire Xenoblade Touch Generations. Just roll through it. Every Touch Generation what Nintendo needs to do is 20-minute pitch. They just they bring all the junior developers who want to move up to producer or director or whatever, and they just have every Touch Generation game in one of those rolling baskets that you rotate around until the ball pops out, and that's got the name of the Touch Generation game they have. Then they have 20 minutes to think of a pitch. So 100 classic books collection, you're pretty much fucked. I'm just telling you now. There's no hope for you. But 1,000 recipes from Ella Table? Well, guess what? 1,000 recipes from Lynn's Table. All we ever hear about is how good a cook Lynn is. Just make 1,000 Mira-styled recipes. Just replace ingredients with random bullshit. Done. Problem solved. America's Test Kitchen, Let's Get Cooking, same premise. No changes here. Art Academy. We've already had Art Academy Disney. We've had Art Academy Pokemon. Art Academy where you just paint the horrible creatures of Mira. Easy. No problem. Big Brain Academy. Big I can't say that's a spoiler. Brain Age, same problem. Cooking Guide, can't decide what to eat, ? Cooking Guide, can't decide what to eat, ?
I wonder, is it possible that might be one of those more literal translations that you were referring to earlier?
In Japan, it was known as Meals of the World, talking, ! DS cooking navigation.
Yeah, see, there you go. It's the navigator. Like, that's why it was, I know, because it was shorthand referred to as cooking navi, right? So,
right, yes.
the literate is just, cooking guide then. That's, it was very, whereas in America, did they did
personal trainer cooking.
Yeah, there you go.
When they thought about that for 4 seconds and said, done. It's the cooking guide, whatever. It's the : can't decide what to eat ? That leaves me flabbergasted.
Yes. Well, then buy this game and we'll make a decision for you, fool.
It's like, excuse me? Electroplankton with Xenoblade. Honestly, that feels too easy. Elite Beat Agents, which you talked about. English training, : have fun improving your skills, !
Oh, that's the thing with, I've forgotten his name there, the party member.
Yes. Yes. With,
in a place where, it's a weird one, isn't it? In a place where everybody can sort of magically communicate with each other, and that is acknowledged in the, fiction.
That it's magic. Yeah, it's acknowledged that it's weird.
They don't know why they can do this, but they can. But we can still have a character that is just a malaprop machine, and that is basically he's a one-note character.
So what you need L, who fucks up everything that he talks about. And then you need somebody to be the person who corrects L. And guess what? Xenoblade X has that in the bank. Greg, can you guess who it is? Who is the perfect foil to L?
Oh, I don't know. It would be kind of funny if Murderous was correcting him.
Murderous would be good. I will agree, but I was thinking it was the prim and proper HB.
Oh, true. Yeah, he is that kind of person, isn't he? Kind of somebody who's like at an elite private school and is that guy. Yeah.
HB and L teaching you English. Despite the fact that you already understand everything being said, although as comes out in it, they hear you in their language. It's not like everybody suddenly knows English, because Tatsu makes a comment that human friends very good at speaking Nippon, and that was when they put it all together. I'm sure what HB's real name is. I'm sure it's something as fucking pompous and bullshittery as possible, but him correcting L as L tries to teach you English, I think is absolutely the play there. This is so easy. Like, I'm not suggesting that these like low level producers and aspiring directors actually make these games, but just to see how good are they. Also, English training : have fun improving your skills ! Was known as DS training for adults who aren't good at English : English language trainer in Japan. I love this. I love that this long. It's for what's the joke in Zoolander, for kids who aren't good in reading and aren't good at other things too, or some bullshit.
Yeah, kids who aren't good at reading and stuff. Something like that.
Face training for rich expressions to boost impressions : face training for adults DS. Yes, absolutely. I'm not sure who's going to be the best for face training.
That's an interesting question. That was originally like actually had a camera in the GBA slot or something, right? But,
the face scan camera.
But then I think they adapted it into a DSi game when the DSi became a thing later. So
for
it
Europe.
became less bizarre that it existed, but still quite bizarre.
Especially because in Europe, it carried the brand of Fumiko Inudo, who's apparently a Japanese beauty expert. In Japan, it did not mention her in the title at all. Who the fuck in Europe knew who that was? Flash focus vision training in minutes a day, also known as sight training, enjoy exercising and relaxing your eyes in Europe and Australia, or practice your sight with training, DSi training. Japan just kept putting the word training in these titles.
I guess that's I'm assuming that's just the the terrible sort of gravity of it after the brain training, right? It's just like, criminy. We can sell anything with this. So let's just try that, shall we?
The truly Japan only ones are where the deranged things happen. Kanshu Nippon Joshoryaku Kentei Kyokai, translated, I'm going to stop reading it there, but translated as supervised by Japan Common Sense Aptitude Examination Association, Common Sense Training for Adults, DS. But often just referred to as common sense training. Why would you drop a title that just rolls off the tongue? Again, there's a collection of characters from this game that we could, Gwen and Doug giving you common sense training. I'm down for that.
It doesn't that kind of imply that training is not necessary?
It does. You're right. It's common sense, which is why your dumbass has to be taught it.
I mean, there's a lot of them that could be described as flim-flam. I mean, I don't think, I don't know to what extent an exquisitely trained face is that different from a non-exquisitely trained face. But this is really just overstepping the bounds.
What if you're just like, yeah, for most people this is common sense, but you're a goddamn idiot, so you have to buy a DS game. What if that's it? You put it in your DS cartridge and it says, Lesson 1, your ass bought a game to teach you common sense. Don't do that. Buy the sequel for more details. Who teaches Magic Encyclopedia? AKA made fun, perform tricks that will amaze your friends, AKA Master of Illusion. I just love that, like, Nintendo of America's like, fuck it, Master of Illusion, done, next game. And then Europe is like, how many subordinate clauses can we squeeze into this title? I don't know. Bose feels like he would want to talk about magic and its Eastern mysticism influences as he's doing the got your thumb trick with his hand, with a palmed fake thumb or some bullshit. It's all here. And basically what I'm saying is, it's all here. You'll incur losses if you remain ignorant, how money and things work, DS. You'll incur losses if you remain ignorant, I like that all of the Japanese titles are really mean. Like, they're just mean-spirited. How money and things work. How money and things how's it actually describe that? Yeah. It's accurate. Fuck.
That's amazing.
I mean,
it's a pretty literal title.
Yeah. No, it's like, I'm looking at the Japanese text and that's basically the title. I thought maybe somebody was fucking around a little bit, but no, that's there. Professor Kagayama's maths training, the 100-cell calculation method. Teaching you a very specific way of doing math. God damn it. Every one of these I want to make a Xenoblade game for. Alright, that might turn into like another article for the site. I might just have to sit here and like zero thought, zero effort paragraph blurbs. I did not expect us to spend this long on this email because this is a dumb joke email, but we did it. We're at an hour. What's the next email up? Fuck it. Let's take a break. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to do a couple more email. And I don't know. We'll see what happens. welcome back to Radio Free Nintendo. A very special Radio Free Nintendo. Because you can send us your emails to rfn@nintendoworldreport.com and help us get over our crippling addiction. John, what are we cripplingly addicted to?
Well, I don't know. When you say this is a very special episode of Radio Free Nintendo, it reminds me of those 80s, like Family Ties.
Yeah, that was what I'm going for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little before my time, but the impression I have is like when a TV show was going to grapple with an issue of the day.
Yeah.
That was going on in current affairs.
Very special. But they would never be addicted to like crack. They'd be addicted to like caffeine pills.
That's what I was just going to say. I was going to say we're addicted to caffeine pills. Yeah.
I was gonna say we're just doing whippets. Let's just fuck it. We're it doesn't come out in the show, but we're doing whippets in the middle of the show.
Yeah.
You can't prove we aren't.
It has to be
you ever hear like a?
In fact, it does take my participation in the show is facilitated by quite a lot of caffeine, but none of it in pill form.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. It's an intervention. Emails, send them, please, for the love of God. rfn@nintendoworldreport.com, or I will start abusing.
So I guess we could say
cans.
Greg's so excited. He's so excited. He's so scared.
So stupid. Our audience will never get that because it's way older than them. It's way older than me.
It's a Saved by the Bell reference. Look it up.
It's older than me. Oh, it's fine. It's fine. All right. Anyway, Guillaume, I'd like you to read the next email, please.
I'd love to. Patrick from Indiana writes, "Good afternoon, gentlemen. Is it just me or me? What?
That's how it's written.
Is it just me or me? A lifelong jazz fan.
Sorry, I feel like that's Hugo Weaving delivering that line.
I mean, I thought maybe he's got like two hymns. Two sides.
A lifelong jazz fan, parenthesis, the music, not the basketball team, and parenthesis, that thinks discussion of Bonanza is overlooking the real controversy here. Sure, it looks like fun to play, has beautiful graphics, etc. But what good does that do if they've turned Pauline from a grown woman singing grown-up music to a tween warbling Disney princess twaddle? Seriously, is her superpower putting the bosses into a diabetic coma with that tripe? Couldn't she at least scat a little? DK would know the proper use for that.
I don't really know what that means.
I thought about taking that sentence out.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, no, I need to stay in. I need to stay true to the vision of Patrick's email.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that that's saying that that he believes that Donkey Kong is a jazz fan and appreciates some good scatting every now and then.
I'm not. I refuse. I need to make it clear. I reject that whole.
Come on out and play, James. Come on out, man. The water's fine.
I'm lowering the curtains and pretending you're not here.
It's just, yeah.
I can't hear you. I'm running the vacuum.
Yeah.
Just saying, title option, Scatman Kong.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to pull out. I'm gonna have to pull out. What was the name of that Kong that wore a hat?
Oh yeah, that just the really messed up looking thing that was just like warped version of the model.
Yeah, for ads that existed purely. Hold on, I've already got it in my TSI toolkit. Which, in case you're curious, I'm not joking. I have a whole folder of bullshit I've made. All I named him is Bad Kong with hat. So I don't know what his actual...
Now he's Scatman Kong. There you go.
Scatman Kong, we found him. Jesus Christ. Anyway, Armo was right there. It was the title, but now Scatman Kong.
I just think was he also in The Shining? Oh man.
I loved him as Jazz in Transformers.
Right. Oh man. Whew.
Jesus Christ. All right. Anyway. How am I the one trying to steer the email back to the topic? All right, so yes, in one game, in one single level of one single game, we did have her sing. That is a single time that we have any reference to Pauline doing anything musical. And I think she was lip syncing. I think she straight up Milli Vanilli'd that shit. I mean, look, she's also the mayor, right? Are you telling me that she has the time and the energy to do the necessary vocal training and also be mayor of New Donk City, a city that's seemingly on the edge of exploding at any given moment? There's no way. That shit is all like cooked up PR. She didn't sing a word of that. They hired a ghost singer, not a ghost who sings. That would be cool. They hired a ghost singer as like a ghost writer to sing the song for her, and then she just stood up there and sort of did the choreography and lip synced the whole thing. So no, we're not losing anything. We're gaining her true, authentic voice. This is the true her. This is the her before she lost joy and became a fucking politician cosplaying as Carmen Sandiego. This is the real her. This is the unburdened, unbound Pauline. Pauline before the unpleasantness, before the incident, which if you know your Pauline history, you'll understand. Before the soupy sales and the kidnapping and all that goddamn bullshit on the construct, this is her unbound, her true inner youth freed and expressing herself through the artistic talents that she has deep inside. Do not crush her dream. Do not crush her vision. Let her sing her weird saccharine songs because she's a child. And you know what the universal truth is? Children fucking hate jazz. It's not even a controversial statement. It's just true.
Yeah.
Children hear jazz, they're like, what the fuck is that? It's atonal. They don't use the word atonal. But, I mean, like, inherently they hear it and like, what the fuck?
They don't know what to make of it.
Yeah, like, children, generally speaking, music that appeals to children is generally relatively simple. It follows pretty straightforward patterns, pretty common chord progressions. It very rarely trends into, like, minor keys and shit. Because their palette just isn't there. It's one of those things where, like, as you get older, you become more receptive to that kind of stuff. Now, this applies only if you're approaching music through a Western lens. If you're approaching music through Eastern lenses, minor music is core to the musical identity of those places, so it's different. But speaking purely from the standpoint of Western music, despite the fact this is about a game being produced in Japan. There. Okay, I got all my, like, diversionary statements out and digressions. But yeah, kids fucking hate jazz. Kids hate jazz.
It's a journey also. I mean, we don't know. Maybe she's gonna like dabble in different genres as they get closer to the planet's core or wherever they're going.
She digs to the hot molten core.
Just, you know, you've got to help you finish off one particular boss by like doing some Slipknot vocals or something. We don't know that isn't coming.
Somewhere between the sacred silence. There you go. Just screaming. What would be like the best genre, the most unexpected genre? I mean, yodeling is up there. She just starts fucking yodeling in the middle of a level.
Mars Attacks proved that the yodeling could be very lethal. You know, it could finish off a few bosses.
That's the third time Mars Attacks has come up today. That can't be normal. That's definitely not a good sign. I forgot Jack Nicholson did 2 roles in that movie until somebody mentioned it today, which is the first time it came up.
It's kind of random, isn't it? But I guess that's the point.
And he did a bad job in both of them, which is kind of amazing too.
Well, it's like no one's like meant to be naturalistic in that movie, as I recall.
No, I know.
It's all very, you know.
Yeah, but in some cases it worked, in some cases it didn't. In his, it just feels like he didn't know why he was there.
He also had like Tom Jones and Jim Brown in like kind of important parts.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, at least Jim Brown had more of a like background in films that I'm aware of anyway, whereas like Tom Jones, I mean, other than like guesting on The Simpsons saying call Interpol or whatever, like, I don't really know.
I think he showed up on one of the vacation movies again because he was just in Vegas while they were just shooting the rodeo with celebrities. Yeah, there's got to be like a musical genre that if you were to just throw it in there, kids would go, "Whoa, what the fuck is that?" And I'll say the jazz music that she does or allegedly performs in Odyssey is not exactly the most challenging music in the world. I don't mean from the standpoint of production and performance. I mean in terms of its tonality, in terms of its rhythm, in terms of its beat pattern. It's very clean. You know, it's just kind of like nice poppy. It's still.
You wanted
her
to do some like experimental music that no one gets and everyone hates?
I want her to do some fucking acid jazz. Yes, that's what I want. But my point is, it's not like she's out there exploring the goddamn space. It's still very poppy. It's just this is an earlier part in her musical evolution. This is her equivalent of Taylor Swift as a country music singer. Like, this is where she's early in her genre exploration, where she hasn't found her voice yet. It's fine. It's fine. She hasn't regressed. It's a time. Also, I'm fascinated by the fact that, like, well, we need to make a DK game. Okay, who's going to be in it? DK. No shit. Who else? Pauline. Okay. That's a little awkward. How do we handle that? Well, she's a kid. Okay. I almost feel like this is Nintendo explicitly saying, if you care about timelines, we want you to know you shouldn't care about timelines. We really don't care. We really don't care.
Well, I suppose it's cheaper than having to buy a book to find that out.
It's true. I mean, the book is almost a weird. The book feels like a practical joke, because if you read it in the book, it's also very clear they don't care. They just did it because they wanted to sell the book. That's the point. Yeah. It's like, this time they just made fun of you. Like, yeah, buy this book. It's definitely got an accurate and very useful timeline in it, we promise. I don't know. I feel like this can still be true to the vision of her we see in her. I don't want to speculate on what her age is by the time we get to Mario Odyssey. They're all ageless. We'll just say that. Adult,
I just wonder why they never aged him up, you know? Like, this whole thing started with Yoshi's Island, right? When, with Baby Mario, of course, but also, like, Baby Bowser, I guess. Bowser Jr. is basically Baby Bowser, and then now you've got, like, Baby Mario and Luigi and all the princesses just racing along with the baby versions of themselves in Mario Kart, and it makes no fucking sense. But, like, where's the... Why does it only go one way? Like, where's the old crotchety... pulling.
We have that. It's Cranky Kong.
Yeah, Rare did that which was absolutely ages ago now as well, wasn't it? Yes. Like, that's more than 30 years ago, when like the original Donkey Kong arcade game was only 13 years old.
But at least that was like not the time shenanigans, right? Like, that was just okay, here's Cranky Kong. He's the old Donkey Kong. And the current Donkey Kong is a different person, as far as we know, a different ape.
I can't remember, in Yoshi's Island, is it explicitly Mario has been de-aged, or is it just Mario as a baby?
No,
as a baby.
Because it ends in English. I had the Japanese game, but in English it ends with heroes are born, and they're holding up Mario and Luigi, so it's them.
So, what if it's just a different Mario and Luigi who happen to be babies? Like, what if this is just your Link situation, but unlike the hero of time who seems to be born like centuries later, it just turns out Marios and Luigis are born very frequently, actually. There's quite a lot of them, and the previous ones don't have to be dead yet. We could just be popping them out all the time.
Just slap the cap on them and you're done.
Yeah.
Well, it's really like Mario and Luigi partners in time that fucked everything up. Like, the Nintendo discovered that they liked these baby versions so much, or like, well, screw continuity. Yeah, we're just going to rip them out of the timeline, and we're going to bring them.
They had time travel right in the story. It's been ages since I played it, but I think the genesis for that, in terms of like them as separate characters, is like it Double Dash. I want to say like Double Dash as a game is just like, okay, we've got to have pairs for everybody, and that kind of created, I think, definitely having Baby Mario and Luigi together, because I think Baby Mario might have been in the Camelot sports games, but I don't know whether they went to Baby Luigi yet until Double Dash, and then they just kind of kept popping up until, obviously Partners in Time is a case where you have a more narrative driven game where you're having those rather than just being avatars in a sports title. So that was definitely
Double
kind
Dash. So I guess I didn't know that's where okay.
So, I feel like that's the first time I can remember seeing where it's like, oh, we got to have the pair of them together. Because, I mean, they are both in Yoshi's Island, so they could have done that sooner because, like I said, that's what it's about. It's about rescuing baby Luigi, essentially. But I don't think they had until Double Dash because, again, I mean, you had a similar thing with, Doubles being a sort of driving force in Mario Tennis because... that's where Waluigi comes from, was to give Wario a doubles partner. But I'm struggling to think. I'm still not sure if they had Baby Luigi in that or not. I'd have to check.
I'm in the process of checking. You're right. He shows up in all three of the Yoshi's Island games, but Double Dash is the first time he is in a playable state.
Yeah, there you go. So that was like the first domino, and then Partners in Time was the next one. But I mean, like I said, I've said before, I think at least Baby Luigi is a thing in Yoshi's Island. Like, and then I guess Baby Peach and Baby Wario and so is a thing in Yoshi's Island DS.
Island too. But do we really talk about that game? Not really.
But where was Baby Daisy coming from? Where was Baby Rosalina coming from? Those ones are like very. Well,
they just
random.
Look. They transgress the laws of time and space once. You think that's where they would have stopped? No, they just keep going back. Like, we need fresh babies for our blood sport, for our our death races. And
babies
so they
sport. There you go.
Yeah, they don't know where else to go get them. Like they just go back in time and just go pick up their young selves, risking the space-time continuum in the process. Like, it's extremely.
This had a very
yeah, go ahead.
This had a very Jonathan Swift start to how you were describing the usage of the babies here. I was getting worried that we were going to have Baby Rosalina gloves, but I assume that the answer to your question is Kamek just practicing new magic, and this is just a Dragon Ball Daima situation where it's like, well, we haven't had a series where we convert Goku to a kid in 20 years. Let's do that shit again.
On that basis, maybe we should just be grateful that it isn't Baby Pauline, and it's
it's like
old enough to be an actual character that can talk and sing and stuff.
I do think part of it is, and this is pretty common in media, is that there is this idea of put a character in there that's roughly the age of some of the core audience. It's like, okay, we'll put someone in here who's like 10, 12, who maybe because they saw the Mario movie might be approaching a Mario. This is on a new system, but Nintendo doesn't view this as like a game that's gonna just be selling right now. It's a catalog
evergreen
game for the system. Yeah. It's so. As like, hey, here's a character that might appeal to people who maybe their first exposure to Mario was that movie 3 years ago, who now are like 12, 13, or 10, 12, somewhere in that neighborhood. So here's a character that's close to your age that you can connect with. But also, this game started development like 1 million years ago, so who knows?
Sure, yeah. Well, and that's the other thing, I guess, in terms of like, now that we've got the concrete, confirmation that of the fact that you've got, the Odyssey talent involved, in
some of it in different roles, though,
in the development. Yeah, sure, yeah, but the connection that we've got broadly assumed, there is something substantial to that. But it's just like, we liked. Doing something with Pauline in that game, we want to do something with her again. And this is what they came up with, even if it's a bit odd. And I guess, musically, it does sound like it's going to cover quite a lot of DK history, even though it's, kind of, again, how much it's meant to be kind of incorporating or acknowledging a lot of those games in other ways. I don't know. I mean, certainly the classic arcade game, you've got a side-scrolling section that's referencing that visually. You've got, the first DKC, the kind of classic jungle hijinks kind of setting or whatever is acknowledged in one of those kind of, are they called challenge stages or something? I think they mentioned in the direct, where it's side-scrolling, and then Bramble Blast as well from DKC 2. 2. So it seems like, visually they're going to be referencing, at least some of those past games, but musically as well, because I think somebody spotted in one video, like there's a remix of Rambi's theme from DK64, as well as like the more obvious things you'd expect, like DKC stuff and the original arcade, kind of inspiration. So it's nice that they're at least, kind of, because it is really not, it's the first new DK thing for ages, full stop, right? But it's also more substantially kind of new than even, those retro developed DKC side scrollers were, which are quite old now. But they were nostalgia plays, for games from the 90s, essentially. Whereas this does feel like doing something new with DK, so you kind of wondered how much are they just going to leave all of that kind of stuff in the past. But they're not. And it makes sense because DKC, those games were big sellers, and indeed, the Wii game was a big seller as well. So you'd be kind of foolish to cast it aside completely. So I guess it's just kind of a balancing act of like you said, is okay, we'll get Cranky's there, Rambi's there. We've glimpsed Diddy and Dixie and stuff, all that kind of rare stuff. But then, Pauline is like something that connects it to Odyssey and maybe connects it to the intended audience of today.
There's good reasons for all this stuff, and we can BS our way until we find them. See, we're professionals. Also, I think your taste in music, whatever it happens to be, sucks and is wrong. And so, Nintendo is, by not reflecting your bad taste in music, is just making the game a better place, and the world, honestly, a better place. You are being shunned as is appropriate, whatever your taste in music is, which also solves the problem. It never occurred to me to think like, Pauline, jazz. It's just like, there's just that one song. And Nintendo's in-house music staff loves fucking jazz. It never occurred to me that there's anything special about her. There's a lot of jazzy shit in Mario games. We'll be okay. I'm sure there'll be jazzy stuff in this one too. Just wait for it. I had missed that she sings at all. Until, like, relatively recently. Like, I had missed that was a thing.
Yeah, I mean, she's just always kind of been that damsel in distress, right? So, from way back in the day. And now she has, like, less... I mean, really, like, historically, she's had less personality than Peach, even. So.
She's had just slightly more personality than her handbag you pick up from the stage. Yeah. Only in that she has 2 frames of animation, whereas that has 0 frames of animation. I guess 1 frame of animation, because it does have a frame, it just doesn't have a second one. But sometimes the handbag has a flaming tire roll under it, or a barrel, I guess, technically speaking. So in a way, maybe that's more, I don't know. She dyed her hair. She's kind of a redhead in that. There you go. See, now I'm making controversial statements. I don't know. Like, you'll be all right. You'll survive. But can I interest you in an Armo instead? Like, I really think you'd feel better off if you were wearing a watch that tracks your fitness, but also awakens you with her teenage warbly singing when it's time to get up in the morning. Also, there should absolutely be an Alarmo clock for this game.
I'm surprised.
Right?
I'm surprised they didn't do an update for Mario Kart World.
Me too.
It seems like an obvious. It's got shitloads of music. That's for damn sure. Have that as a new thing. I assume Mario Kart 8 was already one of the themes, so I guess you could say a little bit duplicative. But there's enough new music in there to make it
so
worthwhile.
Much new music. I have.
But I guess this would be more new though. Donkey Kong Bonanza. It would be more distinct from the themes that are already in Alarmo. So maybe we just hold out hope for that.
Yeah, I did want to point out that since we've been talking about aging, not only is Cranky Kong the old Donkey Kong, we are mere weeks removed from Nintendo unveiling the first robotic Cranky Kong that speaks in English in the world, which is a thing that happened over at their new expansion to Super Mario or Super Nintendo Land. It's like the first thing I saw from that was the animatronic Cranky Kong, and I just was not emotionally ready for how horrifying that thing is. It's almost worse than the guy in the DK suit jumping out of the wall and scaring kids. You can Google it. I'm not going to stop you. You might think I'm joking. Go for it. Go knock yourself out. See if I care. You made that choice. John, we got an email I'd like you to read.
Old Deuterino Lebowski writes, after listening to John recap his bi-decade visit to Brostop, and knowing you're all mostly gray-haired gamers like myself, I was wondering if you guys would briefly go down memory lane and share what magazines or shows you guys read or watched to keep up with industry news and see previews of upcoming games, and additionally, what your favorite brick-and-mortar stores to visit and purchase gear and games from were. As time compression affects us all, I'm specifically talking about the 90s, a time when it seemed like anyone who made something with a circuit board was getting into the video games industry. Based on memory alone, most of my insight and news was gleaned from publications like Nintendo Power, EGM, GamePro, and Next Generation. Getting the magazines each month in the mail was pure dopamine, but the OG cool kind of dopamine. Being Canadian, I frequented Microplay and CompuCenter. I'm sure Guillaume will be familiar with these. And when vacationing in the States, I could never get enough of Babbage's and Electronic Boutique, which I believe eventually became GameStop. I remember seeing the Forbidden Fruit that was the Neo Geo and its game carts on store shelves and thinking, that's a lot of lawns to mow. Let's hear it, lads. Give this old gaming fossil a little gleam into RFN's early formative days. Appreciate you all. Yeah, I mean,
who wants to go?
John, I can go first.
What was your gaming when you got cuneiform gaming magazines? Like, what were they? Like, who wrote them?
I thought James was going to.
They were.
I thought James was going to say, like, when you heard the first gaming podcast on your gramophone or something, but.
Yeah, they were written by the village shaman, James.
Oh, okay. Were they chiseled into clay, or like incised into clay, or were they like papyrus reeds? What are we talking about?
I mean, they were on papyrus. They're written in blood.
Back
then it was.
I wasn't ready for the incantation part.
I mean, back then human sacrifice was like not really like a big deal. Like it was just kind of like a thing you did. But don't worry about it.
Why are you screaming? This is normal.
Yeah.
No, it's fine.
So, but yeah. Yeah, I mean, very similar. I mean, I also grew up in Canada. Don't sit here and just think that Guillaume is the only guy that has been part of the Commonwealth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Microplay came a little bit later. Even though, there was one around. What is he saying? Microplay CompuCenter? No. I mean, for me, it was a lot of Toys R Us. Toys R Us was always the one that had the Game & Watch early. They used to have tons of Game & Watches, but yeah, it was a lot of. I'm trying to think of what other stores. But back then there was. I mean, if you wanted to rent games, you went to Jumbo Video. There was places like that, and just like in the mall. I don't really. The thing is, it's not like in the U.S. like in the 80s and 90s where you did have these stores like Electronics Boutique was a huge one. Babbage's as well. I'm trying to think of like KB Toys was another one that I always used to go to when I did go on vacation in the U.S. Those were the main ones, and of course, Toys R Us down there was always huge too because they were everywhere. But the one thing that has changed since the 90s is that it was you would often see, speaking of magazines, you would look in magazines and you would see mail order ads for companies in the U.S. that would be selling games. And the thing is, back then, especially in Canada, games were not released at the same time. So you would often have to wait months to get a game up in Canada. So when my family vacationed in Florida for the summer, that's when I would go down there, and I would always like load up on games. Same thing with music as well. Like CDs, there would be stuff that wouldn't be released in Canada for months that would already be out in the U.S. And that changed in the later in the 90s or into the 90s. So that was the main thing. But yeah, very much the same. Nintendo Power, EGM, Game Pro, Next Generation were usually my go-tos as well.
Well, I grew up in a rural area where there were no game stores around, really. Like, there was no arcade to go to or anything like that. So it was very much like confined to when I would, visit my grandma or something in the suburbs of Montreal. Then I could go to an actual mall and see, like go to consumers distributing. I don't know if, John, you're familiar with that, but it was basically like they only had catalogs, right? And you would give them like the number of the thing you saw in the catalog, and then they would go in the back and, they would give you your box if they had it in stock. But it was not even like an actual kind of store that you could enter. It was all like, okay, look at this catalog, write down the number of the thing that you want, and we'll give it to you. So that was a thing, but like,
that was consumer distributing?
Yeah.
Ah, man, that is a throwback. I do remember that vaguely. Go on. Yeah. I'm gonna look that up right now.
But yeah, of course, like Toys R Us and, like with the wall of, just the flaps. Right, like you would have the front of the box on the front of the flap, and you would turn it over, and you see the back of the box, and then you should bring the flap or like a card behind the flap to the counter, and then they would go and give you your game. Other than that, like Radio Shack, like I remember they had the freaking TG16 and like what's that game called? Like Alpha Keith Courage. Something Alpha Zone.
Yeah, Keith Courage and Alpha Zone.
Anyway, yeah, so that was their demo, so you could go play that, or like, I think at Genesis, maybe. I did like in Quebec City, I remember going to a CompuCenter, and I just remember like this row, like basically like this, almost like this bar of Game Boy games. Like you could just go sit on a stool, and like the Game Boys would be, all like, tied to the bar, and you could ask for like, well, I want to try the Speedy Gonzales game, please. And they would bring it to you, and you could try it out. And so you would skip buying that because it sucked. And then you would choose a different game. I have this memory of like trying out Final Fantasy Adventure, really wanting that, like I was already a Final Fantasy Legend 2 fan. So like, oh, Adventure, it's more like Zelda. That sounds amazing. Tried it, loved it. So, it was before Christmas, and like, so my mom goes and buy it. But as like we come out of the store, I see like, wait a fucking minute, like there's Zelda for Game Boy exists. I had seen it previously in EGM, and I knew it was a thing that was coming, but like, oh, like this is actually out? Oh no, like this is the game that I want, Mom. And she was like, well, I kind of already, wait a minute. And so, yeah. So that was a good Christmas that year. I got both games, but yeah, because I was in like that tiny town, like I didn't really. It was very like sporadic. It was just like when going to visit family, and also like arcade games. It was like you would wait for the arcade games to come to you once a year. In the neighboring town, there was like this big Western themed festival that's actually huge. You wouldn't think it because like it's in, the province of Quebec. What does it have to do with the West? Nothing. But people love to dress with, cowboy boots and cowboy hats and drink beer in the streets, directly from the bottle. So, like it's this big festival that got bigger and bigger. And every year there would be this tent full of, somewhat recent games. So, I managed to play like Killer Instinct 2 on there. Like once a year, basically, you could play like arcade Mortal Kombat 2. That kind of stuff. Eventually it got replaced by those machines that we talked about last year, like Alpine Racer or whatever it's called.
Right.
And by that point, like I was like, okay, I think this is not for me anymore. I preferred Killer Instinct. Thank you. But all of that stuff, like, it was very much, like, kind of unattainable for me. Like, it was just, like, these very special occasions where, like, okay, we're actually going to town. Like, that's, you know, I'm going to see some games, actually. I don't have to just look at the Sears Christmas catalog and imagine what owning these games might be like.
Yeah. Yeah, but, and I mean, games that were coming out, I mean, you talk about the Sears Christmas Wish Book, of course, which is iconic in Canada. But
yes,
that was the whole thing. Like, pretty much like that, like catalogs like that, and magazines were really the only way you found out about new games during that time period. There was no G4 or anything like that. There was, I mean, really no internet at that point. I mean, internet came in late 90s, but even with that was very much in its early form until probably 98, 99-ish. At least in any kind of organized way, like with, you know, really when IGN started to get big, like that was really, you know, but then also you had like sort of the kind of like amateur journalism or, you know, scene kind of getting bigger around that time, but there was really no way to find out, or, I mean, news from Japan, forget it. It's just not happening. You had no idea.
Or if you did, it was delayed by up to a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the corporatization of internet media that started probably in, I don't know, late 90s. People realized, hey, there's money to be made here, although we haven't figured out how to make it. We believe there's money to be made here.
Yeah.
That was when you started seeing sites making significant investments in the ability to produce coverage. That was when you started to see the first trickling of video content, which would have been something that didn't exist previously. It wouldn't be possible. You started to see little hints of what gaming media would become, because it's not just some smarmy fuck writing in Your Sinclair magazine about how this game is a 9 out of 10 when he's obviously on the take because the game doesn't actually boot, which is a real story. I think it was Your Sinclair.
But I mean, that's smart. But you know, it's
like that was a difference.
But, I mean, I'm just thinking with that, James, I mean, IGN is still around because they were one of the first movers during that time period.
Well, and they built their moat. Like that's the other thing, is they built a thick moat around their kingdom. And like we've sort of etched out this place in online media, and we'll continue to expand it adjacently, but we aren't going to try to like really jump into other spaces. Or if you've seen that they've pared those spaces back. At one point they had a digital software distribution platform. Remember that? Remember when IGN sold video games? If that wasn't some massive conflict of interest?
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
There's a Nintendo site that kind of does the same thing. It's real bad. I'm not going to name them, but if you work for that site, that's probably bad. You should probably say something about it. But the general gist of it is like, they eventually dropped direct to drive, not because of the conflict of interest, because it wasn't an economically viable business path for them.
I mean, I still think of them as Imagine Games Network.
Oh man, I forgot that's what IGN stands for.
Yeah, that's what it stands for.
Well,
it
was the way I ever got onto IGN was when it was N64.com. Yeah, that it was it was on the box of NFL Quarterback Club. I want to say 98, something like that. That was the first time I became aware of it. I mean, I had the internet relatively early, but obviously it was cripplingly slow dial-up stuff, for a 14K modem at first, I think, was the first one until, way into the future with a 28K modem. But, I mean, for the first so many years, like, I can remember getting onto Nintendo's official website, seeing the odd screenshot of Mario 64 back when they were hyping up, Super Mario 64 before the N64 came out. Didn't really use it for very much. For me, it started probably more, with, in the later 90s, as you mentioned, it started gathering steam. Like I said, that review quote is like, oh, there's an N64.com that does reviews. I should look at that. And then, by the time Ocarina of Time came out the following year or whatever, I would read their review of it. And then, I think I found PGC through, or Planet N2000 through the affiliate program at some point, and on it went, from there. But for me, during the 90s, it was very much just, magazines were the biggest driver of it, right? I'd say it started, I guess, when I think we must have been very early adopters of the NES. I only would have been about 3 years old at the time, so my recollection directly is virtually non-existent. But I think there was a Club Nintendo type of newsletter or something that you could kind of sign up for. Having bought it.
Sounds right.
And then as a result of that, I guess, our parents must have signed us up for that. And then we got those for a while, where I guess my brother was yeah, well, this is, something, but it's kind of, it's the manufacturer just trying to sell you stuff. It's not going to be the straight dope, right? It's not going to be, and that's how kind of started looking at, the independent magazines, stuff like Computer and Video Games and Mean Machines, which was the console spin-off of Computer and Video Games. And there was the discovery of our PAL console games are kind of messed up, and people import them from Japan and play them properly, years before. And that's how we ended up having a Super Famicom in the first few months of 1991. And of course, if you're going to import your console, well, then you're so dependent on magazines, right? The official corporate communication, advertising, regular retailers like Toys R Us, whatever, they do fuck all for you anymore, right? So the enthusiast press is basically everything that you've got. And of course, the actual import shops themselves. And I didn't get to go, I think, on some of the trips because it was a reasonable trip to go to, the actual shops. It was mail order was a lot of how it happened, as John kind of mentioned with the American mail orders. We're looking at stuff in Canada. So, you were looking at, the magazines again for the adverts of okay, what have they got and all that. And I think the particular shop that I definitely did go to on a more than one occasion was called, I think, Console Concepts, and they had a sort of dust cover for the Super Famicom that came with a modified, RGB modified system that we bought from them that was their logo, and it was just basically the PC Engine logo, but saying Console Concepts instead. So I assume that's how they got in, because the PC Engine, or TurboGrafx in America, never released officially in Europe, I don't think. There was I think maybe a certain amount of systems were sold kind of with the blessing of Hudson or something, but there was no PAL PC Engine. It was all basically the grey market, and I think that's, kind of how the import scene really got going in the UK. And then you had the early Mega Drive stuff, kind of, because say the Master System was something that relatively did well in Europe, which it's something I've always wondered about. Why was that the case? I've never really heard I'm sure there must be accounts out there of why, it's no surprise that Nintendo wasn't as dominant in the UK and other parts of Europe as it was in America, because America had very particular dynamics, right, with the kind of the bottom falling out with Atari, and there was just this opportunity there for someone to seize, and Nintendo did it. Such an opportunity didn't really exist in Europe the same way, because they didn't have the kind of boom bust that Atari kind of brought with it. So because you had microcomputers, a lot of people played computer games, those just kind of kept going. So I get that, but, Sega had all the same problems, right? They were a console, they weren't a microcomputer, their games couldn't be played for, a few quid or, just something that people shared on cassettes with their friends. That was all still a problem for Sega too. So why did the Master System do better than the NES seemed to? I don't know. Like I said, I'm sure there's research and materials out there on there, and I should really educate myself on there. But, us Nintendo adopters did exist in the UK, and then we moved on to the import scene. And like I said, it was a rare thing, so that in itself made it feel special. But going to that import shop was magical. Seeing the stuff that, seeing the Super Famicom stuff that, maybe you were going to get in the future, certain things that you were never going to get. Certainly the Neo Geo fell into that category, as was mentioned by the old Duderino there, because, good God, that was ridiculously expensive if you wanted to buy it.
Yeah, it was insanely
in the
expensive.
UK, though, I probably even more so than anywhere, like other places. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah, it's like you're sitting there as like, as a kid, and you're like, spending $200 on a console is like a king's ransom, and it's like the Neo Geo is like $1,000 for the console, not even the games, and the games are like $200 a piece. It was just insane. It was like something where celebrities could own it. That's it.
But we were very fortunate, to have parents who had the means and the willingness to spend the amount of money that they did on an import Super Famicom, later an N64. But Neo Geo was all other. No way.
It wasn't.
That was never going to.
It wasn't even
not that we had any great desire for it, because like the stuff that you read kind of just suggested, like, yeah, these games are arcade perfect. Isn't that a wonderful thing? But they're not. Very deep, satisfying experiences with it, like generally speaking, especially those earlier Neo Geo games, which is more, what I remember reading about them. It was just kind of like, these graphics are incredible to be playing at home, but, it's very hard to say you're going to be getting all that much for your money in kind of gameplay terms. But, I remember seeing ActRaiser in that shop. And we didn't get ActRaiser in the end because like there was that little bit of the language barrier with the Sim stuff. Because at that time it took us a little while before we had to convert and play American games and stuff. So it was just like, do you buy the Japanese one or not? And it was only so many games you could have because they were so damn expensive. So didn't get to play. But seeing it was that level in the desert with the big. Skeletons and stuff. It was like, wow, look at this. This is incredible. When you were mostly just used to NES graphics at the time, it was just like unbelievable. It was like it was from another planet. It was that kind of impressive, and all the other stuff, so that was, kind of the context for it. And then, as it went on, the N64 was the big, the huge hype machine, and the internet even started to contribute to that. But definitely the magazine started to get like more diversified as the industry went on. You had like the console spin-off that I mentioned, only Me Machines of computer and video games, that split into a Sega magazine and a Nintendo magazine. And I think certainly the Nintendo one had Nintendo's kind of blessing. So that became a bit more like, it's not like they stopped talking about import stuff. I can remember reading plenty about like the Virtual Boy in that magazine. Of course, that never came out here. So but it wouldn't go necessarily as in depth into those like unofficial places. So then you had other magazines like Super Play, that was very much about import stuff. It would even talk more about like anime, because like the importing anime tapes was becoming more of a thing at that time. So it was like even stuff that wasn't about Nintendo, like it was just like almost import culture was a big part in that magazine. And then that kind of led into the N64 equivalent and the GameCube equivalent. I read those for years because they would cover stuff that, other magazine wouldn't be, with that import angle. And that's what mattered to me. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, I would still read the other magazines and, they'd still review stuff, and release dates did get a bit better over time, at least for some games, like, Ocarina of Time, I think, was pretty much simultaneous in the UK with everywhere else and whatnot. But yeah, you were kind of on this parallel track, and it was just like, to see something, to see footage of games was like gold dust. You know, because there's no streaming, there's no YouTube, you could see screenshots in magazines. Actually seeing games in motion was like a special treat, especially if it was something that you were interested in. And so I would end up watching some games shows on British TV that, in principle, I didn't really like that much, and were oftentimes about games that were essentially in the past, based on, you know, me being on an input calendar. But I'd still watch them because it's like, oh, I get to see more video games without paying for it. It's incredible. You know, it had this very basic kind of appeal to it on that. And so, yeah, there was Games Master on Channel 4 that was like, you know, kind of mixed in competition, you know, people playing competitive games with reviews and with tips. And then later, when, you know, we actually had premium TV, there was Games World, which was more about competitive stuff. And, you know, you'd see the same games a lot of the time, especially like Neo Geo games, I think they're like, or at least ports of them, you know, the fighting games, Samurai Showdown and stuff like that. You'd end up seeing them a lot. But as much as it was kind of like, yeah, you know, I've seen this, there was still this kind of appeal to just seeing them in motion, because you couldn't otherwise. And also, there wasn't nearly as much stuff to watch that was actually good. Like your choices for TV a lot of the time are pretty fucking bad. So something that just involved video games was appealing.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that like the 90s was so boring where I lived that, you know, like I would watch the video clips for music for like the, you know, basically that had like bits of upcoming blockbusters in them, because that was a way like to see the you know, bits of trailers for big movies. So I did listen to the B-52's version of the Flintstones a whole lot, just because. I know
it does, like there's stuff that you still remember, like seeing, you know, like feature-y type that, you know, stuff that would be on DVD like years later about like how they handled finishing The Crow without Brandon Lee, and it's like, where did I see that? Why did I watch it? You know, like, just, but again, like, because, like, yeah, you didn't have, like, a million shows from decades of TV history at your disposal. Stuff that was like, oh, something from an upcoming movie, something from an upcoming game, even the game that's already come out, but you haven't seen it, you know, actually in motion, you've only ever seen it in screenshots. Like, that's more interesting than, like, episode 1001 of a fucking Australian soap or whatever, the quiz show or whatever bloody else was going on.
Mm-hmm. And
sure,
I mean, with games magazines too, it was the same sort of thing where the only window that you had into the future where was the section at the back of the magazine, or, you know, maybe sometimes at the front of the magazine, where they would say, here's the games that are coming. And you would get, most of those games were coming out, but you would also see games that you would see them once, a screenshot of it, and you would never see it again because that game got canceled or something. And so there were like a lot of phantom games at that time where you'd like, oh man, I can't wait for this game. And then you would never hear about it again in your entire life. And there was no way that you could look it up. There was no way to refer to it. There was nothing you could find out about it. It's not like now where you know every single detail of every single game. Oh, this game's in development hell. This game's been rebooted. This game's been given to a different development team by the publisher, or switched publishers. You know every single thing that happens blow by blow as it happens. Back then, there was absolutely none of that. You knew nothing. It was a black box.
So I'm going to give my answer to this question, because before we go any further down the path, I have some degree of knowledge of the TV shows that Greg was talking about that were in the UK. I want to think Games Master had the horrible puppet thing that was kind of like a nightmare in the head. That, yeah.
Well, what they had was like this chap who was on BBC Two's astronomy show, Sir Patrick Moore. Great. It's just basically like, could we get somebody that a mainstream audience identifies as an erudite figure? Not with regard to video games, reputable, but in general. It's just like a wise old man. And superimpose his image, like superimpose like a cyber, like, you know, like he's been appended with a bunch of like fucking cybernetic implants on top of him, so that now he's credible to convey, tips for video games. I mean, it's very strange, especially in retrospect. but they did it.
Like, wow. I just have knowledge of the image of that thing and thinking, like, what the fuck? There really wasn't as much video game based TV in the US, which is funny because the media market here was so much bigger.
Yeah, that does kind of surprise me on that basis.
We had an entire channel in the early 2000s dedicated to technology, published or put together by Ziff Davis Media. They had a single show that was video game related, and then a couple shows they picked up from Canadian television, that they rebroadcast. One of which would later result in the investing in the success of Amico with Tommy Tallarico.
Electric Playground.
Yeah. That show was fucking terrible, by the way. I remember as a young kid thinking, this show sucks. Why is the production so bad? And now I know the answer is Tommy Tallarico.
It's funny because they've been running old episodes of that on YouTube, and I've seen a few. And just the painfully post-Matrixness of it. It's like,
it's bad.
And the Matrix did come out immediately for it. So everyone's wearing the long leather coats and the shades, and it's just like,
it's fucking bad.
Like that movie was popular, wasn't it?
God, yeah, I found that show particularly unwatchable. But eventually we got the G4 TV, which was just awful. Just everything on it was bad. And that consumed Ziff Davis television. So it became all video games, but only nominally, and all of it was fucking terrible and produced at the lowest possible price. But that wasn't really my area because I'm a little bit younger, just a little bit younger. So for me, I ended up with my first gaming magazine, as a consequence of like the weird fundraising magazine sales thing that exists in America, which I guess, I don't even know if that's still, it probably isn't because magazines aren't really a thing. But in the 90s, it was not uncommon for schools to, partner with a company that sells magazine subscriptions. I know that sounds insane. And they would have a catalog of subscriptions one could buy. And the idea was that you could, as a student, sell subscriptions to friends and family of magazines they were going to subscribe to anyway, because that's what you did back then. And I think it was a little bit cheaper to get them that way because they were buying the subscriptions in bulk, versus buying it directly from them. And then the school got a cut for like beyond budget stuff for like extra services or for like PTA stuff. Sometimes it would be like events, like extracurricular events would be funded off of it, stuff like that. Stuff that's not going to get funded by the budget. And, I was at a school that was very heavily involved in that. And so that was how I ended up with Nintendo Power in roughly 1997, 8, somewhere in that neighborhood. If you'll recall, this is something I haven't talked about in a while, but it is relevant. I went NES to N64. I got the NES very late, again, because I was born relatively into the NES's life cycle already. By the time I was old enough to actually play games, it was very close to Super Nintendo launch time. So there really wasn't much point in me having video game magazines because I couldn't play them on anything. I never needed to play them on. I only had a Game Boy. By the time the N64 came out, I ended up with a Nintendo Power subscription largely just as a consequence of it was in that catalog and it was cheap. It was like, I think it was like the price of 4 issues for a year's subscription. And so we just renewed that a couple times. But I didn't really get a ton out of it. I got some. I got Game Informer kind of the same way. We got a Funko Land, which is before they got merged with GameStop, and they had used games. Well, I had an N64, and I'd gotten it late, which meant I'd missed most of the N64's lifespan. And so I was buying N64 cartridges in droves for like $4 from Funko Land. And so having a membership there got me a discount. It also got me a subscription to their magazine. I would have gotten that roughly around the time Episode 1 came out, because that was when I got my N64 with Episode 1 Racer. So would that be 99?
Oh, yeah.
Can't remember what year that came out. So yeah. So somewhere around there. So a couple years later. So my Nintendo Power previous to that point was really just used for Game Boy Color stuff. And then, but the thing is, neither of those are really my source because I was on the internet extremely early. My father worked in education. He had access to the internet at home before the internet had a graphical interface. I distinctly remember browsing the internet as a child, insofar as you could browse it, when it was a text-based system. You can imagine, you probably can't, actually, because very few people ever actually saw pre-internet browser internet.
Yeah.
It was fucking, fucking weird.
I think the first time we ever logged onto the internet, it was a text-based interface.
Yeah, I was using Pine to read email.
Yeah. It was wild.
But it was it was pretty quick after that it was okay. Like, you know, it was kind of like, okay, we've done it, and then we didn't do anything with the internet until maybe a bit later.
Right, because there really wasn't that much to do. There was like Usenets and stuff. My parents weren't letting me go on a fucking Usenet at like a 26 baud connection. But that was my first real media contact with the internet, was through message boards and through blog posting. We didn't have the word blogs yet, obviously.
Yeah, that's like a mid-aughts thing, isn't it?
These weren't like, but I use that term because they were less than websites, if that makes sense. Yeah. They were just like collections of articles that were heaved together. It wasn't like there was coherent like navigation structures and like I clicked this is the editorial section, this is the review it was just like a front page, and it was just, this is the most recent article, and they're just all in chronological order. And they weren't usually part of a larger organization. It was like, this is a guy and he writes his things, or this is like 3 people and they write their things. And so that was my very first intro. And so I probably came into it closer to what a more modern, like a younger person would experience, but the internet's their thing. But it wasn't because the other stuff doesn't exist, like where we're at now. It was just, my parents weren't buying me anything video games. They certainly weren't buying me fucking video game magazines. And so that kind of like characterized my perspective, because a lot of the stuff then was extremely personality based, not the way it is now where it's like influencer based in some way, but just that everything on the site is written from the perspective of a single person, or maybe 2 people. And so it becomes very much a personal project for them, and it picks up their tone. And there's no sense of like, well, I need to kind of standardize this tone across the site for everybody else. If you go read my most recent written content on Radio Free on Nintendo World Report, including the RFN articles, you'll see that I very much make an effort to standardize my content so it matches the tone of all the other content. But there was a time period where I did try to do that to a certain degree. So that was kind of my introductory exposure, which meant I ended up seeing a lot of weird shit. If you were to try to stretch it back any further, it was probably like PC magazines that I would pick up because they had demo discs on them that I could play. So just like, I'd randomly get exposed to Betrayal and Antara, which is a semi-sequel to Betrayal and Krondor, but not the official sequel to Betrayal and Krondor, because that ended up in the hands of a different company. Because Sierra did something funky, I don't know what it was. And so like, that was how I became exposed to stuff, was demo discs and shareware. Because that was probably the only thing I had, or literally text-based descriptions on the internet with maybe a very, very sketchy screenshot. It wasn't until like 99, 2000 that I started consuming magazines. I guess the only other thing I would say is around that time I started consuming, like you mentioned, like the Sears Wish book that came out every year. There were pages and pages devoted to games on there, and I would just sit there and circle them. Like later in my Wish book age, like, you know, as you get older, you're not circling the Wish book anymore. But as I got towards the end of me doing that, it would actually have like an insert in the back that was just stickers that you could just put on things. And there'd be like 3 or 4 different sets of stickers for what kid is putting them on there. And I just remember ripping out all 4 sets of stickers and being like, my sister doesn't get anything, I'm going to handle this. And I only used one, to be clear. I just denied her the utility of it otherwise. It's a much more aggressive, but also much more deniable approach to the problem. But yeah, I mean, I kind of navigated through games media in that respect. Really to the dawn, like even to the dawn of the podcast age, you're talking 2005, 2006, I was still, even I'd say maybe even 2003, 2004, I was still relatively early in like consuming games media at that point. Like, I'd been consuming it for a while, but formal games media, professional games media, I'm talking 99, 2000, maybe 97, 98, 99. I pretty much lost Nintendo power by 2000, by the GameCube launch. I just lost, the other magazines. The one that GameStop published for a long time. Game Informer. I lost that by like 2003, and then it was really just all internet. And it's pretty much always just been all internet from that point. Message boards, forums, just slightly different things. Blogs, websites, and then later video. Yeah, like in terms of shops, like I grew up in a suburban mall-based ecosystem. I had a GameStop. I had another I had a good GameStop. I had a bad GameStop. And there was a good one. There was a bad one. I had an EB Games that became the good GameStop at the expense of the good GameStop we already had. And
did you have the local independent game shop run by the local 35-year-old nerd?
That came a little bit later.
Yeah.
And I had the Funko Land before Funko Land got bought out. And so like Funko Land was where I would go to get games I could actually play. Because my parents still weren't really buying me games. The GameStop was where I went to go play demo stations of games that I wouldn't get to play. But like, I also would go to Best Buy and, Circuit City. I mean, I was in Circuit City's, the city. I was in like the headquarters of Circuit City, like right up the street from where I live. So we had like big, expansive, test stores with huge layouts of stuff, and like, here's 5 kiosks of PS2s rather than just the one. So like, we'd get to see test market stuff and things like that. It's like, I'd go wander around their big space and just consume the boxes of things. That was another way I would handle stuff. So it was kind of a different vibe at that point, where like, I might have to physically go somewhere to consume information about video games, as insane a phrase as that is. But yeah. Like, that was kind of my diet. Yeah, we did eventually have a local game store. We had 2 at one point. We had one in the local shopping district, which is in town, close to downtown. So I actually live very close to that now. That closed a few years ago, actually. It closed right at the end of right after the pandemic let up. They just were too crippled by it. But it had been around for like 20-something years. It changed names a bunch of times. And then there was one close to where I lived as a kid. Right? It was literally across the street from the mall that had the good had the good GameStop EB Games. And it was almost next door to the bad GameStop, which was still a GameStop, and across the street from the Funko Land that had become a GameStop. Because at one point, I had 3. I had 3 GameStops that were all within, say, a 1.5 minute walk of each other. Because that's where they were. I had more GameStops than Starbucks. There you go. That's the way to describe it. And I had the local game store. And the local game store was where you went to get ripped off. That's how I would describe it. It was like, oh, yeah, we've got Pokemon Blue. We got a used copy of Pokemon Blue. It's $38. And I'm like, what? No. Fuck that. Toys R Us also had a really expansive game section. Like really kind of nice, expansive game section. I remember when I was able to buy Game Boy games, you would pull a card off a board, and you would take it to like this window cut into the wall and hand them the card, and they would get you the game from the back. I just remember this weird experience of like going to get a game from my dealer in his private closet. But they had these big display boards where you would like, it was a pressure plate, like those blister keyboards, or it was just like a piece of plastic, and you could push down parts of it and it would cause the connection rather than actual buttons. But it was just images of the boxes of Nintendo games, and they would refresh it every quarter. And you would press it, and a trailer would play and somebody would excitedly talk over the footage about Kirby's Dream Land now on the NES. Save dreams from nightmare with the magic. It just shots like the dead ass end of the game. Like that was probably how I got a ton of my video game knowledge at that point. And it wasn't just Nintendo's published stuff. It was just like whatever the fuck was coming out on Nintendo systems at that point. So it might be some absolute goddamn bullshit that nobody would ever actually want to play. But it's like Last Action Hero, now available on the Nintendo Entertainment System. So you've escaped from the movie world and now need to save the real world. And I'm like, what? I want to say my first contact with Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves was one of those kiosks. I want to say that's the case.
Spoken like a man who lived in a country where the Bryan Adams song wasn't at number 1 for 3 months straight. That's
true. There's no embarrassing examples of that in the UK charts.
God, it's horrible. It's horrible. It's an ordeal.
It is bad. It's really bad. I own that game. I don't know how to describe that game. I should make y'all play that game just because it's so fucking insane. So Gerstmann played it recently, and he was just dumbfounded at what that game is, which is saying a lot when you dumbfound that man about an NES game. But yeah, that was kind of how I got my exposure to stuff. And yeah, like, because media, I had more media availability than most because I had access to the internet. And not only did I have access to it, I understood how to use it. But at the same time, it's just information availability was still really limited. I remember basically doing recon on Smash Brothers Melee, or the game that would become Melee. Like piecing it together from screenshots from one site and video, such as it was, real player video from another, and like what I read in a Nintendo Power magazine, and kind of like, one of
the first videos I can remember seeing of any video game from the internet was of the N64 Smash Brothers, because it was kind of like,
yes,
you'd see the pictures in the, and again, I ended up importing that, and that came out well before, anything official. Because it was a big gap, I think, for the PAL release on that one. So it was all import coverage, and it was just kind of a little bit difficult to necessarily understand exactly, how the game worked, because it's like, okay, so it's sort of a fighting game, but you don't just whittle people's energy bars down and there's 4 people at once and, all this kind of stuff. You just, you'd see the screenshots and they might not have been the most exquisite, quality of screenshots because it's based on, people just capturing, from their own CRTs or monitors or whatever, the magazines and stuff. So you kind of like, okay, if we're going to import it, I need to see this thing in action. And actually, however long it took, it was definitely still on dial-up then. There wasn't like a better connection until the turn of the century. So it was like however long that took to something off N64.com or IGN, whatever they were calling themselves, in the first half of 99. And yeah, just kind of, the quality obviously was shocking, but still, it did give me a little bit more of, okay, I think I get this a little bit better. Maybe I'll take a chance on it. And then, we just absolutely adored that first game. And so, yeah, when we got to Melee, that was, another one of those games. It was just, okay, we're a bit like Ocarina of Time, but more so, because there were more sites. There was, and eventually better internet for me personally. Like, I've got to follow every detail you can on this, because it's just going to be unbelievable.
You just brought back a core memory for Smash, the original Smash. For some reason, like, I had fallen into a gap where I didn't have any magazines at that particular moment, which would happen because, like, sometimes the magazine sales would be in April and sometimes they would be in May. So you just have like a month where you just didn't have anything. And I remember distinctly my first contact with Smash being a magazine. I don't remember what magazine it was, but it was one of the bigger ones at a Books A Million, which is already like a downscale bookstore, or down market bookstore, that somebody had seen the magazine and had seen a giant Pikachu on the front of it, because that was like part of the cover. It wasn't the cover image, but it was like part of the cover was Pikachu about this game, because Pokemon was fucking enormous at that point. Not that it's not big now, but it was fucking everywhere. And somebody had opened the magazine because they were all wrapped in plastic bags, so you had to buy it to read it, unless you just decided to fucking open it, I guess, which is what they did. And they just put it back in there. And I remember I saw that. I was like, well, I shouldn't just sit here and read it. And then stood there and read that whole fucking article front to back. It was just like, it's already open. I may as well read it. This was also in the era of adult magazines, and you would see the same thing happen if you went in the bathroom at these bookstores. See like the plastic wrapper for one, and I'm like, ha ha ha, funny.
Now I'm gonna go wash my hands again. I'm out of here. I'm not touching anything in this bathroom.
I was just like, of course, fucking of course.
Yep.
But yeah, like the idea that plastic bags will keep you off. But yeah, like I remember that was how I found out about the game, even though I was online. Because I want to say they did, like, maybe it was announced in Japan, and to Greg's earlier point, like, coverage out of Japan just wasn't really super available at that point.
Mm-mm.
Unless it was at TGS, where you might have some English language media go over there to cover TGS, and they would sort of pick up that news as a consequence of being there. Or in Nintendo's case, Space World.
Yeah, the Shoshinkai, yeah, that was a thing for, quite a few years. You get big, many big stories and, kind of, again, like, you have footage that was captured, of somebody filming the presentation. So it's kind of how people first got a glimpse of the redesigned Link for Wind Waker, which was probably didn't help with the reaction to it, like, because you saw it in a kind of lousy setting, you didn't want like direct feed or anything like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, emails, you send them. Like, these people sent them. Why haven't you sent them? Like, I know you haven't sent them because we haven't been getting as many as we've gotten historically. So that means you are falling down on the job.
No, someone already sent the, guess if this is actually a Xenoblade boss, tyrant name game. So
did they really? Damn.
Yeah, we'll have to do it sometime. No, especially you've been reeling them off in this episode.
Yeah, it's true. Indefatigable Mike. Feels like it could be. It's not, but it should be. They like alliterations. It'd have to be indefatigable Ike. There, I got there. That one might be real. I'm not sure. It'd be like a giant floating fish. Emails, send them, please, for the love of God. Send them to rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. That's rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. My children are starving. And on that, Greg, what music are we going to wrap the show up with?
Well, of course, Donkey Kong Bonanza is going to be out a few days after this podcast goes live, so had to be something Donkey Kong related. And even though we've used a few songs on it over the past 10 years or so, going back to that Tropical Freeze, well, it's just it does have very many excellent songs, and so I think there are 3 previous ones, but this one, perhaps inspired by the third quote-unquote heat wave of the British summer so far, taking place in the second week of July. This particular song is called Scorch and Torch, I believe. And this is really kind of cool stuff in terms of, there's a lot of the Tropical Freeze soundtrack that is very, kind of bouncy, very joyous kind of stuff. Very upbeat. This has got a little bit more of an emotive quality to it, so I've always thought, the original, kind of, well, certainly, the first couple anyway, of the Super Nintendo DKC games, they had a little bit more of a kind of emotive quality to them than the game necessarily demanded, given that what it is, it's a pretty formulaic platformer with DK and stuff, like, I feel like this is one of the songs in Tropical Freeze that kind of taps into that kind of spirit. It's still, very kind of kinetic, kind of fast moving action of a side scrolling platformer, but it just with its kind of range of instruments and stuff, it's got a little bit of something more to it as well. And I'm sure there's plenty more that we could do with Tropical Freeze. I don't know how many more times we'll go to that well, given that it's like 11 years old, more than 11 years old now. But this I don't think you can argue with this. It's pretty great.
All right. Well, on that, it is time for us to go. When you hear from us next time, we'll probably be with how was she described in the email? I'm gonna
the warbling Disney princess twaddle or whatever.
yeah, exactly. And some other guy, I guess. But on that, bye everybody.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.